good morning or afternoon. I think evening. Is it evening in Ohio for you?
It is, yeah, yep.
Excellent. All right. Good evening, Amanda. Great to meet you. And I'll start with again sort of the sincere appreciation for you taking the time to do this. I really sort of put my tentacles out into the world to see who's willing to talk to me. And when the guys at Blumira said, "Go talk to Amanda," I'm like, "There's no way she'd want to listen to some crazy Australian on a call that she's never met and has no context for." But you accepted the connection, and here we are. So I appreciate it. So for context for the audience, I have my company now. This is actually, for the record, the first podcast I've done full time in my own business, assets as a service as well. So you're the very first. Probably should have mentioned that before clicking the record button. So assets as a service as a business, just to paint a picture for the audience, is a couple of things, but mainly a service provider that wants to do the right thing by its customers, right? And we'll talk more about what that means in the context of this conversation with Blumira being a security vendor. We basically, maybe customers shouldn't hear this, but don't care about how much money we make as long as our customers are protected and safe. And we're going to talk through things in this chat about the MSSP world versus MSP, and is it still relevant today, and can we challenge it, and so on and so forth. And it's also a bit of a shout out to the Channel Guru community that I'm a part of as well, that there's a lot of MSPs themselves that will watch this going, we're going to get our assumptions challenged. We're going to learn a bit about Blumira. We're going to hear Mark harp on about it a little bit, but hopefully do less talking and actually let the guests talk as well. And I think that's where I'll launch into it going. This is a chat about security in the industry, how we all got here, what we want, what we need, what MSSPs can do or MSPs can do to grow and transform, and so on and so forth. And obviously the why Blumira bit too. Like, we try to keep it a little bit not pluggy, but I think what you guys are doing is so unique, and you've helped me a lot that let's make sure people properly understand the value prop as we're listening. So I'm going to stop there. Amanda, all about yourself as much as you're willing to give away, how you got here, your passions, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Let's dance.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, thank you for having me on. I always enjoy giving back. That's one of the main reasons that I'm in the industry is just a passion for technology and just like helping people is kind of
Yep.
why I got into it.
Yep.
But as far as my background goes, I kind of got into tech on accident.
Mhm.
I was a teen mom. So
Yep.
I had my son when I was a senior in high school. I had planned on going into the military,
Yep.
and thought I was a fast typer, so I should do that
Mhm.
instead.
Yep. Nice.
So I went to college, got a 2-year degree in help desk, which was not much. I basically learned some PC computer repair, a little bit of networking and developing some Windows Server stuff, and that was pretty much it.
Yep.
I worked at an ISP for a long time, back before MSPs were really a thing. It was
Yep.
just, an ISP providing dial-up and then fixing
Mhm.
everyone's computers,
Yep.
and then, businesses and stuff too. So I worked there for a while. I moved into a role at a hospital, that's kind of near here still, and worked at the help desk there for a couple years, and then moved into a sysadmin, net admin role, which I did for 5, 6 years,
Yep.
and learned a ton. I learned a ton
Nice.
about how you shouldn't do things.
Yep. It's the best way.
Uh, right, which I'm sure we've all been there.
Yep.
And then started to fix things later on in my career there, when I realized that we were not very secure. So I have a million horror
Mhm.
stories if anybody wants any about that.
Yeah.
And then when I was at the hospital, I was kind of going like the CCNA route because I really liked networking. And I'm like, oh, this is a great career path. I actually had a pen tester come and do the first pen test at the hospital and let me watch. And that's
Nice.
when found out that security was actually its own whole thing. Like, I didn't know
Yep.
you could do that as a job at the time,
Mhm.
until that day. And then I completely like changed my mind of the career track I wanted and started going down the security route.
Yep.
So I learned a little bit of security there, realized that the pay was better outside of hospitals.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah. Nice.
Yeah. And then worked for a couple MSPs, MSSPs, doing firewall security stuff, and then got into the SIEM market, worked on like
Yeah.
Splunk, and a couple other ones, and then ended up at this MSP called Networks Group, and then we rolled 6 people out of that and created Blumira.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And that was 7 years ago. So not to age myself too much, but it's been like 20 something years
Nice. Yeah.
since I've
And
been
so
in
was
tech. Yeah.
that the origin story of Blumira then as well at the same time?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
So Networks Group is still an MSSP, but we were providing kind of this security alerting services and using an elk stack,
Yeah.
and realized how poorly that scales.
Yeah.
We were up at night a lot. And
Yeah.
there wasn't a whole lot that we like that they kept on failing. And if anybody's ever handled large elk stacks, it's just not super great with large
Yeah.
amounts of configuration and data and everything.
Yeah.
And we were just feeling a lot of pain points as an MSP. And we're like, you know what? Well, it wasn't my idea. It was our founder, Matt's idea. He's like, let's just create one from scratch. So yeah, 7-ish years ago, we started creating a SIEM from scratch.
Yeah.
And then that's where then over the last 7 years at Blumira, I went from customer support and like kind of detection management to being in and then leading the incident detection engineering team. And I built
Yeah.
that team out. That was the majority of when I was there, was creating and managing and testing detections.
Yeah.
And then the last 6-7 months, I made a complete switch in my career. And now I am a senior product manager in cybersecurity.
Yeah.
I didn't think I would ever get away from like engineer hands-on keyboard stuff, and it's very scary. But I think I can make a lot of really cool leaps and bounds knowing what I do in cybersecurity in an actual product.
Yeah, nice.
So
and I didn't realize Blumira was that young. Like,
yeah,
we did the sort of pre-game chat about this, and I've made the comment that in Australia in particular, I think Blumira is well known. I always knew the logo and I've always seen it advertised, and only really dabbled in it over the last 12 months to the point of now being a sort of promoter of the brand as much as I can. But 7 years is an amazingly short time to have achieved what you've achieved, right? I mean, I guess it's that thing, if you had the years before it leading up to it that were the sweat equity, but 7 years is short.
Yes. Yeah. And like the first 2 years, we didn't really sell a whole lot. It was more development, right? And
Yeah.
it was in that 2 years. So yeah, it's not been a super long time at all. We're still like a baby startup pre-C round.
Yeah. Yeah. And now you've got this product that I somehow found myself relying on to not do stupid things myself.
Right.
That I'll talk about in a minute. But look, I think one of the questions I had was what attracted you to Blumira as well. But I think you've answered that, and then the sort of the part B to that question was and I think I know the answer to this now, but it seems like with your experience, you could walk into any security vendor in the world and go, "Hey, I'm here."
Right.
Whether it was your CrowdStrikes or your Huntresses of the world and whatnot, but like, what keeps you going every day at Blumira versus going, you could, my words, not yours, while Blumira watches this back, you could walk in anywhere. And from my perception of you or seeing what you've done, what keeps you coming back every day?
Yeah, so I mean, you're right. There's job opportunities out there for me all the time. I'm really I don't want to say lucky, but I put in a lot of work and stuff in my career that I could probably do that most places that I wanted to work. But one of the top things is the people. I really enjoy the culture that we have here. So it's very open and honest, and there's not really any toxic. I mean, there's every now and then there's some, right? But there's not much toxic behavior. And it's just like, it's a product and a problem that I believe in solving really, really hard. Because it is a difficult problem to solve, right? For 3 years, I managed customers that were using Splunk, right?
Yeah.
And I would see like the same problems over and over and over again. People couldn't afford it. People couldn't manage it. They didn't have the time or the expertise and it's just all of these software platforms are built for the enterprise.
Yeah.
And no one is fixing the problems that I always had to deal with when I was in the hospital or the ISP. Like there's not a ton of love going around for MSPs and SMBs. And I just really, really like that space. And I think we could go really super far. So it's just something I really personally believe in and have to stick with it until I either we get bought or IPO or somehow something else happens.
Or you manage to get the whole entire world protected and secure and safe and then mission done, right? My partner talks a lot about that a little bit. She works in the medical industry, saying that she often wishes she didn't have a job. Like it wasn't a necessity because people don't get sick. Like it'd be the best reason to be out of a job is everyone's secure now and nothing goes wrong. But you know, we could go down the whole vibe coding path and what AI is doing and all the rest of it. Maybe we'll get there. I'm dabbling and about to do something insane with my own software platform with vibe coding, and I'm very aware of the risks, which is sort of what's pumped the brakes on it a little bit. But but if we get to there, excellent. You mentioned that the SMB, the hospitals, the smaller companies that traditionally couldn't afford SIEM. I think I'll probably put it up there, or paraphrasing what you said, but that's what I've noticed about Blumira and what attracted to me in the first place is that when I started looking into Azure Sentinel or Splunk or those tools that can do insanely large ingestion, you pay a premium, right? And I came from the SolarWinds world, which is where I sort of took my first CTO gig. And they had logging systems that were actually quite cost effective. And that's where I first started to, as a CTO of a solution integrator, not an MSP, go, when I go back into MSP land, how do I tell the owner of a service provider, you're actually missing out by not doing logging for your customers? And it's actually not as hard as you think, because even if you look at Microsoft and Splunk, let's say, and then SolarWinds next tier down doing 1 gig a day of unlimited log ingestion, 30-day retention, blah, 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 blah. That's a better thing for an MSP than the Microsofts of the world, potentially.
Right.
But you still then have to understand logging in SIEM. And then when I first looked at Blumira, as I was evaluating it against that, or let's say Huntress, for example, as a competitor who were a little bit newer to the SIEM world,
right,
I think that was where the engagement with Blumira was amazing. And I will pump up tires and promote, because it was sort of half the point of this, to go, I come from a SIEM background and understanding logging and NX log and transformation and regex queries, and I've been in the Elastic world and so on and so forth, and often to the time that I wish I didn't, because
much
it's
regex.
Tiring.
Much regex.
But what you're doing in it, even this morning, continues to surprise me, is take an extremely complex topic and just go, if you just click these buttons and follow these articles, you now have a layer of protection you didn't have before at a couple of bucks per device per month, right? And it was to the point where today I did something as simple as I was cutting over to a password manager away from Google, and I had to temporarily export the passwords onto my desktop and then re-import them back into 1Password, right? Because that's what the password manager told me I needed to do for my insurance.
Sure. Yeah.
And you guys picked it up in a second, where I get this alert going, hey, you've got a password on your desktop, right?
Right.
And then I've used other vendors that do essentially the same thing. But in the Australian market, I don't know what it's like in the US market that much. We've now got the government with legislation going, you must, from what we call the Essential 8 framework, so similar to NIST and SIS and all of that stuff, right? Use these controls in business to be considered secure. And we're seeing the insurance market catch up and go, well, if you're aligned to that Australian Essential 8 framework, then you're going to be more likely to get a reduced insurance premium, or more likely to get a payout if something goes wrong. So I'm looking at it for MSPs going, it's not an option anymore, right? And so one of the things you and I pre-gamed on and we vibed on a little bit was this demarc between the MSP and MSSP, where I think it's I'm going to swear on my own podcast, stuff at bullshit. Like, I don't think it served its purpose at the time, but now we're going, if the government legislation, Privacy Act, and all of that is saying logging is an essential component to service delivery and to protecting your customers, or customers staying protected and compliant and blah, 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 blah. MSPs are letting themselves down, going to their customers cap in hand, saying, spend this extra money on this stuff, embed it in your practice, and then charge customers at the end of the contract to go, hey, we've had to maybe absorb this cost, or go cap in hand. I don't care. I've founded my own MSP and I include it, so I've got something different. So actually MSPs don't include it because then I'll win. But like, there's a lot to unpack there, but basically the main thing you and I vibed on there was the whole MSSP versus MSP thing, where I think it's dead and I think it's dangerous and it's actually letting customers down. I don't necessarily want validation to pump my tires up, but what are your thoughts on it? Like, similar opinions, different, unpack.
Yeah, I think it played a purpose a while ago, right? Like 10, 15 plus years ago, it probably played like its purpose then, when security wasn't as, I'm not saying security is easy, but it wasn't as easy back then, right? Like you had very few people that kind of understood security. Two-factor, multi-factor was barely a thing. You didn't really have any options or anything like that to kind of build into your practices. I mean, I knew MSPs that were doing what they could security wise, right? They were doing least privilege. They were, at least putting AV on or something like that back then. But you didn't necessarily have the expertise in-house for an MSP, and that's why, MSSPs became a thing, because you needed kind of both services. I don't think that's the case anymore, right? You have so many options that are built in. Multi-factor is easy to deploy. You can, there's so much now that's multi-tenanted. It's just that, and it's our, like you mentioned with different frameworks, like it's our responsibility now. Like you're handling their infrastructure and accounts, and all of that is security and should be secured, and you should have that be one organization that's doing it, especially if you care about the customers, right? That's why you're usually in the MSP business, is because there's a lot of underserved, underrepresented markets out there that need the tech the tech expertise that don't have it. And if they're talking to an MSP that isn't prioritizing security, they're definitely doing a disservice, right? They're not going to be able to. They're either going to end up paying more and double for something that they should be getting by default, or just not getting it at all.
Yeah. And I think that's the nail on the head there, the paying double for something they should be getting by default. Like, because it's not the customer's burden that the world evolved, and they're expecting us to have these solutions for them. The amount of times I've had to, because I've always run MSPs on behalf of other owners, be the chief customer officer or CTO going to the customer saying, hey, there's a gap, you must do something. I've had to learn how to pitch and defend, right? It'd be just much easier if I didn't have to do those things and we always had the customers back. And in some ways, I feel sorry for service providers, especially the ones that have been around for 30 odd years or 10, 20 years, that it's a bit harder to pivot because the owners are so in tune with their P&L that they go, if I do this, I lose 50 grand a year.
Sure.
Immediately, and what else can I use that money for? But also there's 50 other vendors knocking on my door. So like, I get it. I'm sympathetic.
Yeah.
But I think the SIEM one for me is just one of the bottom line non-negotiables and differentiators that MSPs can put in to go, we tick that box, and we're doing it for reasons now that, again, with Blumira, and maybe I'll probably follow this up with a demo and either invite you or just do it myself or whatever, or the roadshow that I'm going to put on and go, here's how easy it is to actually get started. It's not the mystical thing anymore. Like,
right.
It is if you go down the Splunk path or whatever, but like, you don't need to be a SIEM expert. Now, I had a scenario at the last MSP I ran where we had this crappy 15-year-old switch that did syslog, and you guys helped me get it into Blumira, but it came in as unsupported because of the way the data was coming into the SIEM product, and there was no way around it other than a feature request.
Right.
But when I spoke to the owner, and this was on our own infrastructure, I'm like, throw that thing in the bin, because it's in a public enough location with no cameras on it that someone could walk in off the street and plug a device in. There's no sticky MAC addresses, none of that tech stuff, right? Like, put a cable run back into your server room and lock this thing away if you're going to need to keep it, or throw it in the bin and put it something that's more secure. What SIEM actually allowed us to do, even though Blumira couldn't monitor that particular device natively in a list of supported infrastructure, was go, yeah, now here's my business case for throwing that thing in the bin. And MSPs go, hey, you need to upgrade your switches. And the customers go, oh, I don't even know what a switch is.
It's
and
working
why.
still. Yeah.
Yeah. But now I've got my trial of Blumira in production going, well, we actually can't secure that thing. There's no way we can bring that into our visibility, so that if someone walks off the street in a high-vis vest and it looks like they're meant to belong and then plugs something into it, like, our own tools can't detect that someone's doing that. Right? Like, we need IP address management and all of those things as well as service providers, but the fundamental bare bones infrastructure bit of anyone could walk into that company right now, plug in and just start pilfering data and no one would know. The problem was solved a long time ago with SIEM. You guys have just made it almost idiot proof. And so it's not this complex bit that service providers need to look at going, I don't know what I'm doing anymore. Because the other issue is, as the MSPs sit there, and this I do empathize with, and I've got to be careful, as I found and ran my business, is tool fatigue's hard. Like,
yes,
techs on the front line go, oh crap, my manager's just introduced a new thing I've got to worry about. Productization of any new venture is difficult, to not have tool fatigue and whiplash and stuff, but I still go back to the necessity of it, right? And so I guess, again, I'm rambling. Maybe you just need to like wave a flag and go, shut up.
No, it's okay. It's all right. I have so many things so I can,
Yeah, and so maybe just vibe on that for a second, maybe address the tool fatigue bit as well and all that type of jazz. Yeah. But like, what are your thoughts on every bit of that ramble I just gave?
Well, the first thing I was going to mention is, like you mentioned, like profit and loss, and MSPs looking at that and using that as a determination on whether to provide a tool like this, right? Whether it's Blumira, whether it's any other possible security tool, and you kind of have to. I don't know that it's always taken into account where the lack of that tool and how much more effort and work it's going to take when that customer gets breached.
Yeah.
Right. Or if it gets breached under your watch, and then you lose the customer in general because they just assumed, because they had tech people, that they were being protected, is many times I don't think even in that conversation. It is a strictly numbers, like, we can't afford to pass this cost on, as opposed to the greater picture of it will end up costing you money if you don't do it.
Correct. Yeah.
Right. So that was the one that I had on that. And then as far as tool fatigue, like, that's it. I know I said I've not been in product very long, right? So it's been a little bit over 7 months, but that's one thing that is, it was always on my mind when I was doing like sysadmin work, because when I was at the hospital, we did have tool fatigue, right? We had several different products that would do the same exact thing, and then we had some free tools that would kind of do it, but then do you consolidate on one vendor? Because like with CrowdStrike, like, you just buy all the suite of CrowdStrike things because they say they just work.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's not necessarily how it works. In theory it is, but you find that it doesn't do this one very core thing, and then you have to get that tool. And and it's a big problem, and I always kind of have that in the back of my mind when we are coming up with new feature ideas and doing research, and if there's something I can that I'm going to add to the product? Is there a specific way I can tweak that or add a little bit more or put it somewhere else or whatever that would help solve a problem that another piece of software is just doing,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because I see it all the time, just like lots and lots of different software across every single organization. I don't think there's anyone that doesn't have to deal with that.
Yeah. I think that'll be the case in our industry forever. And the CrowdStrike example is the best one because we had a customer that used it, and we pitched to do more security stuff for them. And they initially pushed back again, going, "You're our service provider. What do you mean you're trying to charge us more?" And blah, 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 blah. And then I said, "Okay, you guys went out and paid for CrowdStrike independently of us. Like, we're happy for you to do it because you've got your own IT team." It was a co-managed situation. But we set it up, got you licensed, got it deployed everywhere. Our obligation here is just to make sure it's deployed. That's it. I'm going to independently log into it now and do a root and branch review of what you've paid for. And like 95% of the features never even get turned on.
Exactly.
And
Because you
again,
don't have the people to manage it.
Yeah.
You know, unless you have a full-fledged team and
Yep.
know that you're going to have some, like, especially like going back to like the Splunk example. When we started Blumira, they told me, because I was writing this huge white paper on deploying like a mature SIEM. And I was used to the whole Splunk train of thought where it took sometimes, on average, I would say it took 6 months to deploy, right?
Yeah.
Set up the servers, configure everything, set up forwarding, figure out their use cases so we can turn on and write the alerts. You know, all of that kind of stuff was around 6 months, and then another 3 months of tuning. And when we, like, one of the first conversations I remember having when there was just like 5 of us in a room was they wanted me to come up with a guide that would solve that problem in under a week.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, that's impossible. It's so crazy. There's no way you could do something like that.
Yeah.
And then, like, lo and behold, we did it, right?
Yeah.
So like we were one of the, I don't do like super competitive research all the time, but as far as I know, we were one of the first ones to actually make that process faster.
Yeah.
And it was fairly easy, right? In the beginning, it was literally just like some PowerShell scripts
Mhm. Yeah.
and a decent UI, right? It
Yeah.
wasn't anything crazy.
Yeah.
But it was like actually listening to what our customers needed, and just the
Yeah.
fact that SIM is a scary word for so many people because they think it's
Yeah.
going to take 9 months to implement.
Yeah. And the thing that the MSPs fall into the trap of then is because it's a scary word, they think they need to explain to the customers what it is. And I think that's a mistake. I don't
Oh yeah,
know a single customer I've spoken to where I've gone, "You know what you need a SIM." And they're like, "Oh, that's great. I love one of those, thanks." And you're selling hamburgers at that point to people that are uneducated about it, right? Going, "Why is
right,
your hamburger better than the other?"
right.
And so the MSPs struggle with it. And sometimes even I do, where I go straight to the tech thing as opposed to the business outcome.
Yep.
I now do a lot of my selling on, if I can't see it, I can't manage it, and I'm not going to be held
Yes.
responsible for it, and also legislation. And that helps. One of the bits and pieces that I thought would be interesting here as well is you touched on the getting it down to a week to develop and get it to market, or get it like the onboarding and whatnot. The free or freemium, I've got to be careful how I represent your products here. M365 connector, right? Like,
Sure.
the power of that alone that you can get started with, and I think it's free or freemium, so maybe I'll let you describe it.
Yeah.
Is unbelievable. Like, I did a defederation job the other day to get GoDaddy, one of the big M365 reseller houses out there that do hosting and stuff. I detached GoDaddy from my existing tenant who does a lot of M365 work. Like, you buy your licenses from them, they put their hooks into 365, and it's a disaster for small to medium business. So I got out of it.
Oh yeah.
As fast as I could get in. But what happened after I clicked that defederate and get rid of GoDaddy from my environment thing while I was doing the project was a Blumira alarm going, hey, someone's just defederated GoDaddy from this environment. And I never would have thought in my conscious mind that was an alert that I needed to see. And I think if MSPs are listening to this going, okay, well, we've talked about why Blumira is unique, its background, its history, and so on and so forth. How do we get started and what's the value here? I think it's just deploy at least the M365 bit to all of your customers for free, or you'll clarify my free comment in a second. But like, you're going to start to see stuff that you never had visibility over before. And I think that's also part of the way to get over tool fatigue as a tech, is to go, I'm passively receiving things as it's happening in these environments that I can learn about and respond to, because I'm one step ahead of a customer that probably doesn't know or doesn't care that I need to do this thing right. So is the best advice, or some advice, to even just look at the M365 integration and just go get started there? Like,
yeah, definitely. I mean, it's a very low barrier to entry, right? Like that's why we created it. It is currently free and probably going to switch to a freemium at some point. I don't know when, I don't know how that's going to work, but I know it's been talked about. Because it is extremely popular. When you can fire some, because currently we allow, I think it's 3 different connectors. So you can do Microsoft 365, you could do, I'm thinking like, it's like Umbrella, I don't know. There's like a handful of them that you can pick from, and you can pick 3. But you can deploy it and do everything in like a day or less, depending on how many meetings you have. And I've always, like, you kind of touched on it earlier, like if you don't see anything, you can't protect it, and you're not gonna deal with that. That's one of the hardest things in tech, is asset management, and knowing what's on a network and where it is and where it came from, and that is literally one of the hardest things you could possibly do. It's why zero trust became a thing, is because asset management's hard. And like that's one of the reasons I think it's so popular, is just because some visibility is better than none. Right. And you don't have to worry then about always thinking of, all right, this new vulnerability that came out, how am I going to create a new detection for this for my customers, and how am I going to test it to make sure I don't get paged in the middle of the night? And that was one of the reasons why I loved running the detection engineering team for so long, is because I remember, like, for example, we would do a Nessus scan at the hospital, and I would get an email from every APC, UPC that we had. So I would get like 800 emails every time we would do a Nessus scan. And then when I implemented my first SIEM, I'm like, this is just like getting a Nessus scan every day. This is ridiculous. Why are there so many alerts everywhere? So that was one of the things that, like, we built the foundation on for the IDE team, was making sure that doesn't happen when we create and push detections out. And it's still things that I work on now as being in product, is trying to make it so the only things that you're woken up for are important, unless you choose the noise, right? Some people really like it. I don't get it, but it's, I know I started rambling too, but that's one of my really big one of my really big passions is making it less difficult for all of us.
I think one thing you said there, well, everything you said was firing off neurons, and that's why I love these conversations. And I'm, despite popular belief, quite picky about who I talk to, and I picked you for a reason, because I suspected that would go down this path. But one of the things you were sort of suggesting there was that you want to make it simple and on a silver platter, or paraphrasing, putting words in your mouth, so that people don't have to go into the weeds. I did notice that about my experience with Blumira, going, there has to be, unless I'm missing something here, and maybe this is an education piece for me as much as the audience, an inherent level of trust between myself and Blumira to go, every day you surprise me with a new thing that fires off. I'm like, yeah, I can definitely see why I did this and why I need it, protecting me from myself, protect my customers. But how do you balance the simplification versus the I might actually at one stage need the weeds? Because there's an obfuscation layer with
Yeah.
what you do, right? So do I just
Yes.
inherently trust that you're the best and everyone else is rubbish, or am I missing something contextually there that gives me extra info if I think I need it?
Sure. I love that question because it's always something that's been on my mind.
Mm.
You kind of touched on it a little bit. Like we're the ones that create the detections. If you want one, we'll create one for you. We
Yeah,
currently, other than like you can do scheduled reports that runs daily, but as far as
yeah,
our like real-time detections, you can't create those on your own right now,
yeah,
right? That is and has been something that we know that we have to end up doing
yeah,
because there are people that like doing that stuff and they want that control.
yeah,
Um, we've just done it up until this point just because of the value add it gives to all Blumira customers, right? Because
yeah,
if you ask for a detection, our team takes it in and looks at it. And
yeah,
when they research it, they research it. They test it out
yeah,
in they test it out in a lab. They test out the attacks in a lab. They use that logic against all customers that are sending us that data type,
yeah,
and then tune it, like pre-tune it. And then if it's a viable detection and works for everybody, everyone gets it.
yeah,
So it's in general making the platform better
yeah,
when we do it that way. We will at some point have to get to the point where we offer more weeds, though.
yeah. I think is the counter thing to offering more their AI pushing you to even think maybe you don't need to, and maybe the compute power we've got, the ability to do linear regression over the data sets that you would inevitably hold and so on and so forth. Are you being pushed or forced, or I'd assume you are thinking about that going, can we actually stick to our core, which was give it on a silver platter and
Right.
let AI do the thinking for us now?
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
is that on your mind? Is it something that's in your tea leaves, so to speak, not to give
Yeah, we
away
have we
things you
have a
can't give
whole
away?
yeah, we have a whole kind of committee internally that meets regularly to talk about what we could possibly use AI for in the product.
Yep. Yeah.
Next quarter, the first iteration of that is coming out. And it's going to be where um, so our alerts, for those of you that haven't used Blumira, are called findings. And it's
Yep.
kind of a compilation of all of the work that our detection engineering team puts into workflows and analysis for all of those
Yeah.
and your environment. So it takes into account other findings, the evidence that's inside those findings, all of that kind of stuff, and gives uh, more accurate to the second, like
Yep.
recommendations of what to do for investigation and remediation, and then
Yep.
kind of like an executive summary, stuff like that.
Yep.
But that's like the first level of AI, but we have
Yeah.
talked about using it for uh, detection creation and like report creation, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, for sure.
Because I think the data volumes are also so phenomenally large that will AI, here's a prediction question for you,
Yeah,
ever be able to almost at wire speed, wire level go, this is unusual, I'm shutting it down? Because when you unpack the data behind that, the
sure.
volume of stuff you would need to ingest to do it, like,
That's a lot of data.
yeah,
A
yeah,
lot, a lot, a lot. Yeah, we have
yeah,
some customers sending us like terabytes a month.
yeah,
Yeah. I don't know. From a cost perspective, I can think of how expensive that could be,
yeah,
just from putting all of that data in there. Like I will just bring our internal stuff to its knees by the amount of data that I've tried to put in just for like one thing before.
yeah,
So I can't imagine it at scale. I imagine over the years, it'll
yeah,
get a little bit more performant, so we don't
yeah.
have to worry about that, but we'll see.
Mm. And I just wonder if the good guy versus bad guy war is going to be run in this AI thing of if we get so good at detection in real time and that volume data size wide speed thing is solved, then is it always then just social engineering that people are going to have to use to break into a business, or is it a new frontier we haven't yet conceived? And now I'm getting into Twilight Zone shit.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
here we
sure.
are. But yeah. So that's what keeps me coming back every day. And look, I think in just terms of I'm just looking off to the side, the lists of things that I was going to vibe on. I can probably close that window now and turn my attention back to yourself. But like, what is your general commentary for where this is all going, whether it's Blumira or the industry, helping MSPs out, your best tips, et cetera, et cetera. Then I've got one more theme to talk about, which is around, because we sort of vibed a little bit on the mental health stuff, and maybe that's why you accepted reaching out. And that the question around that will be more around like helping young people survive the industry and all of that. So I'll get to that in a minute. But yeah, just in terms of advice, tips and tricks for the industry, it can be Blumira focused or agnostic. Like, what's the state of the world from Amanda's perspective?
Agnostically, I could just say if you have Exchange on-prem to get rid of it.
Good. Yeah.
We were just talking about this earlier today, and I guess there's like a ton of Exchange on-prems that are vulnerable to this new thing that came out today. And that's I just mentioned that's very commonly my parting advice when people ask.
Good. Yeah.
But as far as like, as far as like where the industry is going, I do think like AI is going to keep security in business, rather than put us out of business, just because of how much vibe coding has taken place.
Yeah.
And how little thought people use when they decide they just want to shove it into their product.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that vibe coding thing, I when I first heard vibe coding, thought it was just people with good vibes doing some stuff.
Yeah.
But you still had to be a software development. So like I initially just didn't get it.
No.
And then I met a pen tester in Portland, actually, who became a mate of mine. I met him on Reddit and we do some stuff together. And he was like, I vibe coded this thing and he built this entire app. I'm like,
what?
I didn't know you could develop. He's like, no, don't. Like, he's like, go and think of an idea and chuck it into Lovable now and do it. And so I did. And what I'm going to do in my services contracts, because it will be unique and maybe I'm going to regret this, is every customer has a per user per month price they pay. I'm going to embed the cost of both Lovable and Superbase in and license it against their tenant, protect it with MFA, and build apps for my customers, vibe coded, so that at least the tenancy is all on their identity. I'm not building software that I resell because that carries a lot of risk that I don't want.
Sure.
But if they're going to do it anyway, and that's where the world's going, and they go, hey, I'm a small dentist, and now all of a sudden I can build a better booking application. At least I've got the governance and oversight around it as a service provider to help, because I own the tenancy with them from the start and it's factored into the price. I've got now something unique that I can sell, but nothing about what I would build if I was a service provider that wants to build it for myself and then sell an interface to the customer cares about HIPAA, SOC compliance, row-level security if I'm going to multi-tenant it because that's the better way to do it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then that swings back around to Blumira going, well, if I'm going to vibe code this thing, I better build some sort of syslog thing into it that ships the logs to Blumira. And there's a differentiation for me as an MSSP to go, or an MSP, sorry, I fell into my own trap there, going, I now have something that's not only unique and you route to market, it's friggin' easy, it's secure as I can possibly make it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm shipping the logs to Blumira who are willing to help me do this. Maybe that's our next interaction. I'll try to build an app that I give to you with some of the logs. Away we go. But I think then that goes somehow naturally and organically, which is strange for my brain, into the mentoring, mental health, career advice stuff. My audience knows that I have a small business called Every Saturday, and it was originally a graphic design business. It turned into a mentoring business, young techs in university and college. I've had lots of mental health things go on through my career, lots of bad days, we all have. And I use my experience to help young grads coming into the industry to not fall into the traps that I did and to remove the chip on the shoulder as fast as possible and so on and so forth. That's why I'm passionate about the mental health sector in tech, because it can kill you as fast as it makes you happy, right? But thinking about all of that, what's your young people advice other than get off my lawn? Because sometimes that's mine as well. But like, you're a new tech coming into this, all of that world that I just described, vibe coding, AI, even the SIEM stuff, all of the rest of it, tool fatigue. I'd be terrified coming into the industry now going, how do I learn all of this stuff? Right?
Yeah.
Is it just get a good mentor and strap in?
Gosh, any more? I've seen like every permeation or whatever of like or combination of like people that know tech, people that have switched to tech and just decided to go get a master's degree in cybersecurity, people that just think that they know things that have never had any hands-on experience, and I think it's still to this day boils down to the people that know the basics, because if you know basics in technology and networking and like authentication, that's why I'm a little biased, but I think if you go and work at a help desk first, you are way better positioned to do anything in tech or security. Because otherwise you miss out on so much context that no AI is going to help you, because you're not going to know the right questions to ask.
Yeah, spot on. Yeah.
Right. Like knowing a little bit about what AI does and how to do prompt engineering or whatever is fine. But just pick something that you know that you'd be passionate about. And if it doesn't work out and you're not passionate about it, just switch. There are so many different paths that like I said at the beginning, I was going to become a network engineer until I found this other thing that I thought was cool. Is that like ruining my career? No, that's just like a different fork that I decided to take in a path. All of that previous work that I did went into the security engineer I became.
Yeah.
Right. And like, yes, I've done all of this stuff, but it's also been 20 years.
Yeah. And we've been doing it for the same amount of time. And I think I wear my heart on my sleeve, and it goes back to my first statement of how sincerely appreciative I am of having you on here, because I don't like validation. My number one career thing for me sometimes has been, can a number one thing be sometimes? I don't know. Anyway, is I don't seek validation, but like knowing that I've got a peer or someone that's been through it and has similar or the same ideas. Like, I say to my grads that I mentor, go and hop on a help desk, like, and absorb it, right? And it's funny because I had a terse-ish conversation with one of the universities I work with the other day, where they put a prompt up, because I mentor a lot of kids that are doing AI software engineering because the university is pushing down that path. And they log on the first day at university in an AI course, an AI degree or a master's, and it says you must not use AI in this course to do your work. I'm like,
what?
Your coursework is AI. What are you doing? Like, lean into it. Teach the students how to think, right?
Yes.
And skills for modern workers, AI is going to be a component of every knowledge worker for the rest of forever. But if you don't understand the fundamentals, you'll never get it. And maybe this is old man yelling at cloud stuff, but I think in the next 20 years, the kid that gets that first help desk job now, or the first whatever job that they're doing, what's their 20 year from now podcast going to be like?
Right. Probably still Exchange servers online.
From 2007. Yeah, I reckon. But I'm fascinated by it, because maybe we're wrong. In my prompt engineering that I do, because I also don't necessarily love that word, because I just think it's a wank word that the industry made up. But the quiet part out loud. In my prompt engineering world, I learned very quickly to go, now that I've got this 700 word diatribe of a prompt, also challenge me because my biases creep into my writing to flip the
Oh
script
yeah,
and do something different,
right.
to invent better product, to do blah, 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 blah. But I have to have learned how to think that laterally. And it was the help desk that got me there, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But are the kids in university today then going to learn about what an ARP request is and how to understand a MAC address that is part of a crafted SIEM message to be able to then interpret what the hell is on my screen as a tech at an MSP? And it's hard. And as part of the Channel Guru thing, because I have to get at least one more plugin, we're trying to educate service providers to go, it's not actually that hard to get your techs up to a standard that the customers require, not demand or expect, but require.
Yep.
But you can't do it alone. It's impossible, because without podcasts like this, without inspiration in the industry or mentors, or even just the ability to fail as a tech on a help desk or whatever, how is the industry going to get any better at this? And like I sometimes get decision paralysis. I'm now getting like a fear paralysis of, this is actually too hard and I'm just going to stop and sell the business and go back to a help desk because I find it easier, right? How does anyone in this industry look after their mental health with that huge volume of information that we've just thrown at them?
It's really hard. One of the things that I accidentally did was created a nonprofit.
Yeah.
So this was like 7, 8 years ago. I was actually talking about my own struggles at home and in the industry, just depression, anxiety, burnout, you name it. And people were really surprised. There's a lot of people that were really surprised because I smile all the time and I always seem genuinely happy. They're like, I didn't understand there was anything wrong. I think now mental health is less stigmatized than it used to be. So I think that helps. So younger people coming in, like more of them are going to be in therapy than were when I was in high school, right? Because it was definitely, my generation and the generations above me looked down on that kind of stuff, right? As opposed to using it as like a tool to not crash and burn. And kind of just keeping that always as a core of like your being, I think really helps. And spreading the word and being able to talk to peers about it and finding what works for you and understanding that you're never going to be the smartest person. Well, you should never try to be the smartest person in the room. It just means continuously get better. Don't start worrying about the fact that you don't know everything. You're never going to know everything. There is no one in this industry that knows everything about a particular topic, and just keeping that in mind and grounding yourself, talking about things, like all of that's going to help. I mean, people still will probably get burnt out, right? Because we're all so passionate about fixing these problems. I was just, early on in my career, I just loved it. Like I didn't care that I was working 60, 70 hours a week because I loved learning it. I loved doing it. It was great. But knowing what I know now, I still wouldn't have done that. Like I would have pushed, I would have like, yes, you love it. Yes, all my hobbies are now security related. I would have found another hobby to do, right? Because you get burnt out really fast when you're working that much and all of your hobbies are also related to your work.
And then throw kids into the mix and who are you really, right?
Yep.
And I struggled with that. I've probably done the most of my personal mental health transformation in the 2 years that I've had my son, and it was because adverse mental health stuff was there from the start of my career until now. But when I wanted to cut it and go, I've got to stop repeat patterns of behavior here to be better for my kid and all of those tropey things, but it's still genuine.
Mhm.
How do I now have a career that I'm proud of, that allows me to be there for the soccer game or whatever? And you start looking at your own mortality a little bit. This got really esoteric.
Yeah.
Going
Yeah.
like, I need to be more connected to hobbies outside of IT. People look at me in the industry here in Australia, I think sometimes they go, oh, it's Mark the IT guy, Mark the tech guy, Mark the blah, blah, blah association to the industry. And I sit there
Right.
sometimes going, well, who am I? I need to start watching Alan Watts videos and meditating
Yeah.
more. But like,
Yeah. You are
it's
not your
important.
job, right? Yeah, you are
Yeah.
not your job. And I found myself doing that a lot as like people ask like, "Oh, tell me about yourself." And like that's the first thing I would say is like
Mm.
what my job title was and like all the things I
Yeah.
do in the industry. I'm like, "Oh, that's not great."
Yeah. And it kind of pigeonholes you a little bit because you are what you say you are. And
Mm.
like, I think that a lot of the feedback about what I'm trying to do with the marketing and tech stuff and assets, it's been 50-50. People have gone, marketing and technology is so different. They're different things. What the hell are you doing? And the other 50% go, oh, that's unique. That's cool. Give it a crack.
Yeah.
What I had to learn about myself from a mental health perspective is to go, don't listen to the naysayers, because it's that old trope of the only people that can change the worlds are the ones that are crazy enough to believe that they can, right?
Right.
And I made a career of when people told me, no, you can't do that, I just went and did it anyway.
Right.
But I have to balance that in my mentoring to go, don't have the same chip on your shoulder, because that can lead to arrogance and maybe narcissistic traits and so on and so forth too. And it's hard to be a balanced all-rounder, but also then as a probably self-professed social justice warrior, I suppose, for lack of a better term, um, I will always speak truth to power. I'll always defend workers' rights. I'll always make sure that people have a safe space to be. And I think the next transformation we're going to see, whether it's AI induced or just a societal shift, is um, the MSP owners that have been around in this for 20 or 30 years that have their particular ways of doing and being things and whatnot. They don't understand these Gen Zs on the service desk that work for entirely different reasons, and they're frustrated by it.
Yep.
And the Gen Zs of the world, I think, are the ones that have cottoned on now and gone, actually, your language is dead and I don't give a shit. I'll go and get a job anywhere because
Right.
I'm in the hottest sector in town. How dare
Yep.
you force me into the office, control what I wear, how I talk, how I be?
Yeah.
And they're the best customer service people of any generation that I've ever seen on the service desk, except for myself, because I'm amazing or something. I don't know. But like, um, but lean into it and don't lean out of the change and think that your ways of doing things are still what the customers want, right? And I could go on forever about now that it's millennials overwhelmingly making the purchasing decisions for businesses and blah, 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 blah. And I think we lean in a little bit better to change because we've been at the forefront of a technology revolution that older folks haven't. But yeah, this went way off topic and I'm going to start wrapping myself up. But look, I think I'll leave it there on my ramblings, but I guess maybe you've already answered it. But the number one piece of advice you want to leave the world with, both from a Blumira perspective and then from a personal perspective in the industry, what have you got for us?
Let's see here. So two pieces of advice. One Blumira's kind of specific. I'll say, yes, I love the product and I think everybody should have it, but uh make sure all of the logging is on that you need.
Yeah,
I learned very early on when I was doing all of this stuff that a lot of times the logging that you think is turned on by default is not.
yeah,
And you need to go turn that on. That's going to save you a ton of time. So like install Sysmon is another
yeah,
big one that I usually tell people. We use it very heavily for our detections.
yeah,
And it's going to save you a ton of time and effort if you ever have a breach.
yeah,
And then like personally related, I think it's just doubling down on the fact of find another hobby that isn't involving a screen.
yeah.
Because we kind of I went to DEF CON this last week in Vegas, and I was joking with one of our volunteers because we ran mental health room, right, where
Oh,
people
nice.
could come if they were like overwhelmed or whatever. And we were talking about the having a hobby without a screen, and the one girl's like, well, but I go from the bad screen to the good screen in the other room.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's usually my piece of advice is to find a hobby that doesn't involve a screen, because
Yeah.
getting away from that artificial light and colors and sounds and stuff is always good for your
Yeah.
physical brain
Yeah.
and everything that's going on in your body.
There's more important things than computers, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
disconnecting was always a really big one for me. I would always at least find twice a year to go camping somewhere that didn't have cell phone service,
Yeah.
because it's very helpful,
Yeah. What's
especially if
that
you,
like with kids? I haven't done that
I
yet.
mean, they went with us.
Yeah.
But yeah, they were, I don't know. We live in the middle of nowhere, so they're good at like playing with mud and sticks.
Yeah.
Uh, but that would always help because I had a hard time forcing myself to disconnect.
Yeah.
But when you're forced by your location,
Yeah. Yeah.
it
Or
always
by the
worked
rubber
out
rats in your
better.
ankles. Yeah.
Right,
Spot on.
right.
Yeah. Look, I'll wrap myself up there again. And again, I hope it comes across as genuine, because it is that I'm extremely thankful for this stuff. Like it's probably the dopamine hit that I need while I'm in the bubble of the career, right? Like
Sure.
just hearing other people's stories and that we're all in it together and stuff. So it's a genuine thank you for being on. Hopefully it's not the last one. I do have one feature request. If I can sneak one in. No.
I'm the right person to talk to.
Yeah. Yeah. The only thing I found with Blumira, and I still love the product and I'm an advocate for it. I can't believe I'm ending on this, is when you log into it for the M365 stuff, it'll say logins outside the US
Oh yeah,
on
I know where you're
that
going.
banner.
Yep.
Yeah, like
Yep.
we're in Australia.
Yep.
But
Oh yeah.
look, it doesn't do anything materially anyway. It doesn't highlight the 57 users in Australia are not from the US or whatever. But look, it was just a cheeky comment. But you know,
Yeah, that hasn't been touched since the beginning, so I totally get that.
yeah, it's fine. I
It's
like
before
I
we
said,
had anyone outside of the US. The first time we had a couple Canadian customers, that was the first thing they mentioned.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Look, at the end of the day, I geek out over things I enjoy, and I don't want to be a mouthpiece for a vendor, which is, I think, why I've got the respect, at least in Australia, that I've got. But between Blue Mirror and two or three other vendors that I'm starting to talk with, like, I just can't see it being anything other than a default part of the stack. And maybe if I'm successful, it's because other MSPs don't jump on board at their own peril. But I'm hoping that people watch this and go, hang on a second, it's probably worth a shot, at least just from the human element of it, right? Like I grew up in the western suburbs of where I live, which is like maybe it was a bit sketchy. We were lucky we had a roof over our head and all of that. Well, not poor, but not overly wealthy. But I had to pull myself up by my bootstraps and have a good career and whatnot. And I never in a million years would have thought I'd be sitting here in front of someone that's built a product that as I admire and respect for what it's worth. I think that, like, you've written a book, haven't you, in the background there?
Yeah.
Like, just cool stuff that you get to see, and the weaving the inspiration through for the younger folks, hopefully, that watch this as well. It's just huge, massive honor. So I'm going to shut up there. Really appreciate it. Did you have any questions or thoughts for me? I'll let you do the summary, because otherwise I'll just ramble forever. But
Yeah, no, I really appreciate it. That's one of the reasons I got into this industry, just because I really always enjoy helping people solve problems.
yeah,
And just, talking to people about it. And like, that's one of the things that like, another reason why I'm really happy that I'm at Blumira is because we're not all about like profitizing everything.
yeah,
It's like if we come up with something cool and want to release it to the public for people to use, our leaders are like, yes, please. Like if this is
good.
good, if this is going to help all of the people that are trying to secure things and don't have the time to do this, yes, because it just helps raise that bar of minimum
Yeah,
security that we're all trying to get to. But yeah,
yeah,
that's one of the reasons why I love doing these things is it's just free information for people to use. Like my contact information, like you can add to them if you have show notes or something like that, but
yeah,
people can find me on LinkedIn. I'm
yeah,
on all of the other social media things, for better or for worse, not
yeah,
super often, but
yeah.
always
Perfect.
available to talk to people, answer questions. I
Yeah.
I I love all of that stuff.